couple of myths about air travel. We're going to start by talking about air travel, how to book air travel, some tools and technologies and sites out there that you may or may not know about. My website gathers fare data. I've got several million fares in my database. Every once in a while, every 6 months to a year, a travel website will come out and say, Tuesday morning is the best time to buy, or Wednesday afternoon is the time to find your absolute cheapest fares. It's absolute bunk. Like, fares change constantly. Fare buckets constantly sell out. The second myth is that it matters where you book. We'll talk about it in a second, but almost all travel data flows through just 3 or 4 different systems. They're called global distribution systems. And so really, it doesn't matter if you have a preference for booking on Orbitz or Expedia or directly with the airline. It's all about the same. Something to keep in mind, as I mentioned, travel data, fare data is tightly controlled. This is a wonderful graphic that Wikipedia has for global distribution systems, which are the systems that the airlines send their fare data through. So when you look at these little pink boxes down at the bottom, that's your Orbitz, that's your Expedia, that's your local travel agent. And instead of communicating directly with the airlines, they're almost always going through these intermediaries. And so when I say that it doesn't matter where you book, that's really what I'm talking about, because almost everyone you deal with is going through the same place. That's kind of a simplification. There's a few different exceptions where the airlines are talking directly to Expedia or Orbitz, but almost all the time they're going through these GDS systems. And as a result, when you book a flight, it really doesn't matter who you go through because you're hitting the same database and the same data provider no matter what you do. And so when it comes to finding the best place to book a flight or the best place to find the cheapest flight, you're really just talking about finding the one that makes it most convenient to find what you're looking for. It's not about the best prices, it's being able to locate the best price, not finding it and booking it. The one last point I had about the last slide is that one of the reasons that the travel industry is so stagnant is because it all flows through those few channels. When you look at what booking flights has looked like 10 years ago versus today, we saw it change really quickly when the internet came around, right? It was one of the first things that you really had to do online. But now nothing's changed really in the past decade. You've got a few new entries like Hipmunk, which makes it a little simpler or easier to find a comfortable flight, but for the most part, it's stagnant. If you don't want to passive search, if you want to actively search for what you're looking for, Google has purchased the, in my opinion, best options for that. There's a system called QPX that operates the back end of American Airlines, US Airlines, and a couple other different systems. And it was owned a couple years ago by a company called ITA Software. And Google has purchased ITA Software, which means that Google now has access, really the fastest access, to more flight data than almost anybody else. So if you're not familiar with Google Flights yet, it's really a fantastic tool, and it's improving so much more than any other tool out there. I know Kayak has always been a fan favorite, but Google's really taking it further. Google also has its older brother, I mentioned ITA Software. If you'd love to learn more about advanced routing codes, and if you want to make sure you've got a connection in Detroit, and if you want to make things more complicated for yourself, if you enjoy the minutia, then this hits the same data but in a different way. And on the right here, I've got an example. It's really cool because you get these flight bars. So the green is the actual flight, and then you can see the connection in gray. You get a really good idea of what you're going to be doing when you're traveling. So if how you spend your time in the air and on the ground is important to you, then that's a good tool as well.